April 20th, 1989. A quiet stretch of Montana highway lit by nothing but moonlight and the distant glow of oncoming headlights. At approximately 8:15 p.m., a pickup truck and a sedan collided just outside the small town of Circle. The driver of the truck, off-duty police dispatcher Carol Heights, was injured but survived. She recalled, through a haze of glass and panic, locking eyes with the other driver, a woman standing eerily still in the middle of the road, looking directly at her. When first responders arrived, that woman was gone. That woman was Patricia Meehan, 37 years old, a quiet, introspective caretaker who had recently left her job, showing signs of emotional withdrawal. She wasn't from Circle, she didn't know anyone there, and after that night she was never seen the same way again. Witnesses would come forward with sightings. Over 5,000 tips would flood the authorities in the years to follow. She would be seen in diners, at truck stops, walking along highways, always alone, never speaking, never staying, but none of them were ever confirmed. In this episode, we dive into the chilling, unexplained disappearance of Patricia Meehan. Was it a fugue state, a cover-up, or something far more mysterious? Because one thing is certain, the woman who walked away from that crash was not the same woman who ever came back. In the hours immediately following the crash, law enforcement searched the surrounding area. There were footprints, Patricia's, heading away from the road, weaving through brush and disappearing into a pasture, but no signs of a struggle. No blood. Just a direction. Search dogs were brought in. A helicopter scanned the area with heat sensors. Volunteers from the local community combed the fields. It was as if she had melted into the terrain. That night, Patricia Meehan vanished. But then the sightings began. In the days after the crash, a trucker stopped to eat at a roadside diner in Miles City, Montana, about 90 miles from the crash site. He reported seeing a woman who looked disoriented, sitting alone, refusing to speak. Her clothes were dusty. She left before anyone could intervene. 2 days later, another sighting. Then another. Then dozens more. But each time, she was just out of reach. Patricia's family joined the search. Her parents, Dolores and Jean Meehan, flew in from Pennsylvania. They distributed thousands of missing persons flyers. They appeared on national news, pleading for help. Every tip that came in was followed, no matter how unlikely. But Patricia always seemed one step ahead. Some sightings were ruled out, mistaken identity. Others were so convincing that police set up roadblocks. Still, she slipped through. Over time, a new theory began to surface. Patricia might have been suffering from dissociative fugue, a rare psychological condition often triggered by trauma, where a person loses awareness of their identity and begins a new life unknowingly. In this state, they can walk away from everything they know, family, friends, jobs, and become someone else. Could Patricia have forgotten who she was? Could the crash have triggered something so deep that she simply walked away from herself? As the days turned into weeks, and then into months, the disappearance of Patricia Meehan grew into something stranger than a simple missing persons case. The pattern of her reported movements seemed to defy logic. Sightings of her came from every corner of Montana, stretching into Washington, Idaho, even as far as Minnesota. And always the details were the same. A woman walking with a dazed expression. Dirty clothes. Silent. Avoiding eye contact. Sometimes she would accept food or a ride, but never offered a name. Never stayed long. Some truckers began to call her the Ghost Girl. Rumors spread at roadside stops, a silent hitchhiker in denim. She never asked for help, never cried, just moved. Law enforcement agencies across multiple states tried to coordinate their efforts. Patricia's photo was distributed nationwide. Her case was profiled on national television. Thousands of phone calls poured in. The FBI got involved, and yet, still, no answers. Delore and Jean Meehan didn't give up. For years, they chased down every credible lead. They spoke with psychics, hired private investigators, even attended support groups for families of the missing. Each dead end hurt more than the last. Each false lead reopened a wound that never had time to close. One sighting was particularly chilling. In 1991, a waitress in Bozeman claimed a woman matching Patricia's description sat at her counter every night for a week. She never ordered more than coffee. She would read newspapers, especially the obituaries, and then, without a word, she vanished again. Was Patricia looking for herself? By 1994, Patricia had been missing for 5 years. Public attention began to fade. Law enforcement scaled back efforts. But her family held on to hope. In interviews, Delore Meehan said, "I believe she's out there. I don't think she knows who she is, but I think she wants to remember." These weren't just the words of a grieving father. They were the echoes of a deeper belief that somewhere in the vast American landscape, their daughter was still walking, still searching. By the mid-1990s, the trail had grown colder, but Patricia's story refused to die. Every few months, a new sighting would surface. A lone woman walking in the dark near a freeway ramp, a passerby swearing they saw her eyes in the mirror of a gas station restroom, a tired traveler mistaking a figure on the side of the road for a familiar ghost. But none of these leads ever brought Patricia home. In 1996, a retired detective revisiting the case compiled every sighting into a map. What emerged was a constellation of Patricia's possible path. It wasn't random. Her route formed a wide loop through rural towns and interstate truck stops, as if something was drawing her back and forth across a specific region. Was she revisiting memories, or trying to remember who she once was? Psychologists consulted on the case leaned into the Fugue state theory. They noted that Patricia's upbringing had been deeply private, that her profession, caretaking, often required selflessness, long hours, and emotional exhaustion. She had left her job weeks before the crash. She had told friends she felt disconnected. The crash may have been a trigger, but the real mystery lay in what her mind chose to forget and what it may have tried to protect her from. There were also darker theories. That Patricia may have been picked up by someone with ill intent, that she was trafficked, or worse. But no remains were ever found, no confirmed crime scene. Just that eerie silence and 1,000 questions. Her face became a ghost in the machine, haunting milk cartons, bulletin boards, and early internet forums. In some towns, her name was still spoken with quiet reverence, a reminder that not all mysteries live in the past. Some walk beside us. In 2001, Patricia Meehan was declared legally dead. It was a formality, a procedural end to a story with no ending. Her parents, aging and weary, marked the moment with silence. They had long stopped searching, not because they stopped believing, but because belief alone can only carry you so far. Still, even today, some swear they've seen her. A woman in a Montana thrift shop, staring at her reflection in a dusty mirror. A quiet hitchhiker in Idaho, who said her name was Tricia, then walked away. Maybe she's still out there. Maybe she always will be. Today, the case of Patricia Meehan stands as one of the most haunting unsolved disappearances in modern history, not because of violence or clear foul play, but because of the ghost-like quiet in which she seemed to dissolve into the world. The last verifiable trace of Patricia was on the night of April 20th, 1989, but in the decades that followed, she became more idea than person. A symbol of what happens when trauma meets isolation, when a mind decides it cannot continue as it was. There are dozens of missing persons cases that begin with a crash and end with a theory, but Patricia's case lingers, largely because so many believe they saw her. Not once, but many times. Some think she's alive. Others believe she passed away alone, somewhere in the vast expanse of Montana's wilderness. Her identity lost to the silence. But her story continues to ripple outward. She's inspired fictional characters, documentaries, and even psychology case studies. Her photo is still online, still shared, still searched. And in the towns where she was last seen, the question remains, can someone truly disappear in America? Not just go missing, but vanish in plain sight. The Meehan family never held a funeral. They said they didn't need one. For them, closure wasn't an event. It was a state of being, something that might come or might never. Their grief remains quiet, like the roads Patricia may still walk. And in that quiet, there's a lesson that some disappearances don't come from darkness, but from disconnection. That sometimes the vanishing begins long before the person is truly gone. Thank you for joining us for this episode, The Bride Who Vanished, The Disappearance of Patricia Meehan. If stories like this resonate with you, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Each week, we revisit the unknown. Some answers hide in shadows. Others are still walking among us. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and keep looking.